Hooey! Hooey, ladies and gentlemen, hooey! Oh man, I tell you, today is going to be a tough day for me. I have gone 9 days, 9 whole days without freaking out, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know if I'm going to make it to 10. Today is a really difficult challenge for me. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'll speak briefly about what's got in my crawl, and this isn't even the official beginning of the show. This is just the pre-show stuff. You got a little something in the pre-show. I'm watching these protests, and I'm watching how I see people reacting online to the shutdown. And what I see, unbelievably, I should have guessed it. I don't know why I was so surprised. The people that are against the shutdown, predominantly conservatives. The people that are for the shutdown, predominantly leftists. And the leftists accuse the conservatives of loving money more than life. And the conservatives accuse the leftists of loving control more than life. More than freedom, more than choice. And they're both right to some degree, but of course, yeah. Well, what ticks me off is how they're talking about one another. Of course, I'm talking about both of them. I'm going to subhumanize them all, because that's what they're doing. This is what's got up my crawl, the subhumanizations. And I believe, by the way, that some people deserve to be talked to like they're subhuman. But the people that you see have done things directly to others before your very eyes, like some of the idiots here, what they do on Facebook, well, in general, social media, the way that people go after people, just subhumanize. They're not even subhumanizing anything that the person directly did. Just having a belief is not a reason to be subhumanizing. I want to know, what have you done to people in your life directly that I could see? And I could see clearly people doing stuff to people directly to other people. Borderline, I'd call it a form of terrorism. What people do. And these people, I think, should be called out. They should be. There's very few people that I actually believe you deserve the assaults that many of us get and give online. But there's definitely a small group of people that kind of deserve it. But they're attacking people just for protesting. Just for protesting. They put you in this category where there are some people within this protest that absolutely value money more than life. And there are some people, well, you know what? I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Or I'm actually, maybe I am missing the core. Because maybe I'm just dancing on the surface here when I'm talking about this whole thing. Because there's something, I haven't really been able to fully express it. I have this a lot in life. But what I'm seeing is the conservative faction has fallen into a predictable pattern. And I don't know if you want to call it the progressive faction. Which word is better for you? I don't know. Not all leftists would call themselves progressives. You know, I'll just say the rightist and the leftist. The rightist faction, because you know what? There's plenty of rightists that are not conservatives. It's a pretty broad swath of folks that are in the camp of the right. And as well as the camp of the left. But it seems to me that there's no ideational struggle going on here. And I think I was actually starting to do that. I was trying to do the thing that I preach not to do, which is to try to understand their ideational positions and why, and I can't do that. I don't believe that it's fruitful to do so. I think it's more fruitful to try to think about the aggregates of humans and understanding them as much as you can down to the granular. If you had the capacity to fully understand the full agency of others within those aggregates, that's what you'd want. Of course, you can't have that. So as close as you can come to actually understanding the real human beings, as many of them as you can, and certainly the main ones, is to understand them, not to build a portrait of the totality of their life that you want them to be, but to actually seek to understand who they are, what they want, what do they see, what do they seem to value, where's their power. And if you understand that significantly the most, where is their power? You understand what a person's power is. And the power is basically the ability to influence action. So there are various vehicles of power around there that we imagine will enable us to have a favorable advantage over others when we seek to use our power to influence others. So what we have here is simply, if and I believe if the more that you understood the real human beings and not whatever you imagine in this, the left, the right. I mean, there's no such thing as the left or the right. These are all a hodgepodge of aggregates that flow and shift and ebb and turn and meander, and there's not a moving target on what the left is, not a moving target on what the right is, but hundreds of moving targets on what the left is and hundreds of moving targets on the right is. There is a lot of stuff that's going on, but we human beings, because we operate so fundamentally in a heuristic sense, we operate in forming immediate patterns that give us immediate predictability to take immediate foraging action. We'll get more on that in the show. So what I see is a coalition amongst the quote-unquote left of folks who, for one reason or another, and there's a lot of reasons, they do not have a fundamental fear of seeing the United States of America disappear. Now, many of them, maybe even most, they don't want the Republic of the United States in and of itself to disappear, but they want whatever the United States fundamentally is to disappear, and they want to create something new. Now, problem on the quote-unquote left is they're as unaware of the diversity of their thoughts as the right is of them. They understand themselves about as much as the right does. They only understand their tiny little faction within that larger collection of factions that we call the left. And they imagine that that is the story told across the seas, and that is the story that will ring true when the glory comes. These are all the promises. So for them, the shutting down is a good thing. Now, I don't even think that most of them probably are really aware that they're really acting on their base of they're acting in what they assume is their power advantage through these particular vehicles of power. They have great opportunity, they imagine, right here and right now. And what's it matter if this thing stays shut down? We'll just pass all these trillions of dollars of bills. And think about those trillions of dollars of bills as folks. What you don't understand about those trillions of dollars of bills, these are building institutions which will be with us for decades. They're rebuilding without our consent in the dead of night, in the course of an emergency, a life-threatening emergency. They are rebuilding, fundamentally rebuilding our institutions. This is a glory time. For the people that want to engineer our lives, this is a glory time. If you are in that camp that you really do believe that the right type of intelligent people, good, thoughtful, intelligent people that believe in equality and justice, that if you have that this small group of people can build for us societies that we'll all thrive in, this is a great time. This is a great opportunity. And if you're a conservative, you already see fundamentally that they have been trying to use this opportunity, the way, for instance, the way that they've been trying, at least once they tried to have essentially morality cops in your business to assure that you treated human beings according to the very specific moral code that would be given to you by this morality cop. Whatever you want to call it, that's essentially what we're talking about here. This is the same thing as if the Pope decided to put cardinals in all the different businesses. This is the same. This is what they literally tried to get in. Of course, the Republicans, what are they doing? They're writing laws, and they're writing these bills in ways in which how many big businesses got small business loans? The big businesses got the bulk of the money. Yet the big businesses were allowed to dip into the small business funds. Why? Come on, why? Because ultimately, well, I think, I mean, the Republic is very complicated, very, very complicated. The Republican Party, the coalition of folks that would call themselves the Republican Party, their base of power is what is, and actually is what is, and to actually restore to what was. They really are trying to go back. Now, the reason that they want to go back is not because they're racist or sexist or misogynist or anything. Plenty of them are. Plenty of leftists are as well, by the way. It's well balanced as far as the racial hatreds that you get from either side. But this group, what they recognize is that they are primarily a coalition of people who do well in business in the capitalist model such as it is, and or are beneficiaries of those who do well in business, or believe or imagine that they can eventually do well in business. So these are essentially your largely what would be the equite class in Rome. These are your merchants and your business owners and stuff. Now, that people vilify them like that's horrible to be these people. It's insane. It's not all easy being these people. It's work. I happen to be best friends with one of these folks, although he is in that group as far as he owns a business. He runs a gas station. He's an independent gas station owner. And I'm telling you, he's the owner of the business. And he works. It's incredible. And this is where most of these people are. These people are not the rich people. These people don't have my friend, he doesn't live in a mansion. He lives in a fairly decent house. Nothing outlandish, nothing ostentatious. I would say he's moderately well off. He's certainly not wealthy man. He runs his business and he works on the regular. He works 12-hour days and he does everything. He works the cashier. He cooks. He does everything. He does everything that everybody else does. He does. But he also does the books and he does all the other stuff and the inventories, and it's incredibly complicated to run a gas station. And he would be in this class, although he doesn't identify as a Republican at all. He's with me. He and I, we're both unaffiliated. We're unaffiliated. We've had it with all of you, basically. And he's not an anarchist. I'll call myself. He's not even an anarchist. He's just not affiliated. But I'm an anarchist in heart. But in practicality, I don't think human beings are ready for anarchy until we have the power to actually have anarchy. And the only way we're going to have the power to have anarchy is when we all have some degree of self-sustainability. So what frustrates me about watching all of this stuff go on is that I know that none of these people are even talking even remotely about the actual core issues between these different groups. On the left, you basically have a coalition of folks that, for one reason or another, feel that they've been disenfranchised. And many of them actually have been disenfranchised. So legitimate disenfranchised, folks that think they're disenfranchised, all folks in betweens and mixes. These are the people that can't imagine that they have a chance just by their own will and effort to succeed. And what the equites don't realize is there are significant portions of people in our society that really never did have anywhere near the opportunities that you had in equite classes. But anyway, so I know, at least I believe that they're all they're just pissing on each other is all they're doing. They're just pissing on each other. And none of them making a lick of sense. They all sound like idiots to me. And you try to talk to them, and you get some shrill idiot response. And then either I don't talk or I tell them to shut the see? Nope, we still have done it. We're still on the potential for 10 days. Nope, we're not doing it. We're not going to do it. But I'm almost infuriated, and I have these days, and it's just frustrating. Now today I don't have the excuse of health to say, my health I'm having a reasonably decent day, so that's okay. So I can't really complain there. But maybe that's why I'm able to control myself right now, because I don't have that element. Because I'm telling you, I'm just so fed up. All right, and with that, now we are actually going to begin the show. So that was 22 minutes. We won't often, but I have warned folks in the past that this can happen sometimes. We can get a long intro like this. Now, after 22 minutes, we're actually ready to start the show. So here we go. Let's get our intro.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel, or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone who may. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
Yeah, I do. That's what I plan on trying to do. If you join me during the pre-show, you'll know that I almost lost my ability to reach the 10th day of not freaking out. But I managed. I held on. But I'm done with that rant, and now it's on to the show. If we get our material on, well, you can look at the show notes, and you can get videos and everything else at Frico.com, where I am not freaking out about the news for you, the people. That's what I pledge to do until I don't. And then I'll get back off. I'll dust myself back up, and I'll get back on that horse and say, try again. Let's say, come on. We're going to do it this time. That's what you do. So we get our material, though, from our sites here. These are my sites. These are basically link aggregate sites. I get my news from a variety of sources. I look at roughly 1,200 to 1,500 links a day, and I basically narrow down links for news the light. It's the glitz, the odd, the under the radar, the hard to believe news at a glance, and all the links are there. And then you go to Obamacare.tv, and you got all the links there for free market social engineering for the masses. It tracks it basically tracks the billionaire families, the wealthiest corporations, and stuff like that, and some tech stuff as well. A couple other little things thrown in, but generally that's what it really focuses on the main. And then Pioneering News. This is tech, science, underground news links, and that's what that is. I got 32 links from Pioneering News. I select my 12. I'll say the top links for me. I pick, and you can see them here. It's the feature, the focus, the headlines, and pick those 12 there. I pick 10 here, and I pick 10 here. And then for the story, I pick 14 stories that I use to sing the song of the day. And the song of the day is called today, The Be Newsy Social Boogie Woogie. This is Frico Talks the News for Monday, April 20th. Cuomo's reopening planner has a dragon tail. Bill of Rights basher seeks Bill of Rights protection from doing bad things to good people. Raising the freeze the quantum power. The B Newsy Social, the number of scored. That's our news poem for the day. Corpse, clean out Coronaville small business loans. The individual in aggregate, the aggregate in individual, a new think on evolutionary science, and that'll be our dialectical at the end of the show. This might be a longish show, but I got to try to remember to keep it somewhat down because of having to get stuff done before the show tomorrow. So here is, let's get to our first segment here. Yeah, let's get on over to our first segment here. Yep. That'll be the headlines segment. I saw a little video recently on the tragic story of Curly from the Three Stooges. I'm not going to share it now because, dude, I got enough stories. I'm trying to get the 10th day of not freaking out. All right, let's get to this recording. This is the talk headlines for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. Our top headline of the day is Cuomo's reopening planner has a dragon tail. Now, this is excerpted from Hot Air, and I do want to put a little. I consider Hot Air toward the lower end of reputable. It's a pretty shrill, factional, conservative, right wing kind of site. So there's a context here. Cuomo hires firm with close ties to CCP to develop reopening plan. Earlier this week, Ala Pundit wrote about New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's strategy of developing a, quote, Trump-proof, unquote, strategy for reopening businesses in his state without letting the president take credit for it or Cuomo taking the blame over a longer shutdown and or a resurgence of the virus, depending on how it plays out. As part of this, I don't know why that made me laugh. It just, I don't know. We all write like children now, don't we? Because that's such a, I don't know. Why Cuomo taking the blame over a longer shutdown and or a resurgence of the virus, depending on how it plays out. That just seems like a, I don't know. I mean, when I write all kinds of weird ways when I write my stuff. But I'm not writing journalism. I'm turning news into art. Well, subjectively. I try to do that as much as possible, but I'm doing something different. I'm not a news site. I don't know what you call them. I'm a news art site. That's what I am, a news art site. So, but if I've done this type of journalism. I ran a newspaper for a while, and I know that I would not write that sentence like that. That phrase, depending on how it plays out. I would have written that differently. I would have, and or a resurgence of the virus. Depending on the opportunities and the depending on the types of opportunities that might present themselves, I'd write something like that. This is one of these colloquial, non-professional journalistic phrases. I mean, shut up. Y'all probably don't even agree with me. You guys are like, what are you talking about? Hopefully, at least I entertained you as I interrupted your story, which I do. That's what I do on the show. That's what you get all the time. As part of this strategy, Cuomo has hired the consultant from McKinsey & Company to help him develop the plan. When China, and then this is another part of the excerpt here. When China launched its One Belt, One Road initiative several years ago, later rebranded as the Belt Road Initiative, the New York Times reported that it was McKinsey that was selected to promote their efforts globally. They, quote, sprang into action, unquote, producing numerous reports that were widely cited in Chinese state-owned media, talking up the program in glowing terms. But the BRI was yet another far-reaching effort to expand China's tendrils into governments and private businesses around the globe, locking down their control of the global supply chain even further. It's a plan that Foreign Policy magazine once described as one belt, one road, one big mistake. I don't get that. I mean, I understand you get to cite somebody that didn't like it. That's great. I don't know what that means. I don't know if foreign policy would be in my group or not. My unaffiliated group, probably not. So none of these people are in my camp. I have no emotional attachment to them. You know what? This is a boring movie. Even here in the United States and in other parts of the world, McKinsey's favorite strategies involve promoting, quote, unbundling, unquote. They advised larger corporations regarding the wisdom of offshoring both their employment and supply chain strategies, with a particular emphasis on sending everything to China. Their clients in these efforts included IBM and General Motors, both of which became famous for outsourcing jobs from supply chain sources. Not gonna lie to you, that is a bad look, old man. Oh man. That's a bad look. I don't know. These stories bore me. I'm gonna move on. And the reason they bore me is because everybody, all of the I can't trust this information, but I thought it was worth a headline. And a lot of times I'll put these types of stories, if I do put them in at all, I put them in the headline section for that reason. So yeah, is reopening planner. I like my title though. That's a cool title. I'm very proud of that title. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's the best thing about this story. It's my title. All right, next story. Trump's tax showdown with SCOTUS, excerpted from Boing Boing. And I feel the same way about Boing Boing as I do about hot air. Not really a trusted source, lower, hyperbolically leftist though, not right. So they're annoying, but still. Here you go. Excerpted from Boing Boing. SCOTUS to hear Trump tax and financial records cases on May 12th, remotely. In a first, by teleconference, court will provide live audio feed of arguments to news media. I want it. Man, they should live stream that, man. Live stream it. Come on. Today, the United States Supreme Court announced that you know what? They should zoom it. They should zoom it. Today, the United States, and then live stream the Zoom. Today, the United States Supreme Court announced that on May 12, it will hear a dispute over whether Trump's tax and financial records should be publicly disclosed. New Supreme Court releases, and it's a tweet by Greg Storr. I don't know who that is. New Supreme Court releases argument scheduled for special May telephone session. Trump financial record cases to be heard May 12. Okay, well, so there you go. So they're going to hear the case of whether Trump should actually have to. I mean, this is just a nightmare for Trump, or really for anyone. If you are a person who has made billions of dollars, it is a nightmare for anyone to see your tax records or your financial records, because every one of you has dead bodies, real or otherwise, and/or otherwise. Every one of you does. And when you're dealing with a reality in which people literally felt like, you know what, we have enough power, or it was in their vehicle of power interest to actually impeach the President of the United States of the American Republic for nothing. Nothing. I'm sure that he's done things that you could impeach him for. And I think every president have. They almost have to just to carry American foreign policy out. You'd have to violate whatever. You'd have to violate stuff just to carry out American foreign policy. So I'm sure you can get every president on that front if you really got to see all the records. So this is a nightmare. And if the Supreme Court, the thing is, it really is, it's about the fact that there are 5 justices that you can right now rely to be quote-unquote conservative. So that makes me believe that this is probably going to be a 5-4 ruling in favor of Trump. No, I don't really need to understand. I don't need to understand the law. I don't need to understand the arguments. I know that people can find reason to make any judgment that they want and couch it within the legalistic framework of whatever legalistic system that they're operating within. So there's no reason for me to even attempt to understand the legal issues here. All that I need to understand is fundamentally you have 5 justices who will have an inclination to want to preserve the republic, and 4 justices who have an inkling to maybe kind of go for a reboot. So one group is still fundamentally satisfied with the fundamental structures of what is. And one group is fundamentally dissatisfied with the structures that is. There's no more good or bad in this group, in any of these groups. There's no right or wrong. It's just different vehicles of power for different factions that find themselves advantaged or disadvantaged by one or the other factions. That's all it is. So there's another one of these stories that is a boring story, but worth taking note, just recognizing it's just boring. Subjectively. Drugmageddon? Here's an excerpt from, oh, that's right. Did I not read my own headlines? Oh, no, I did. Okay, good. Drugmageddon? Here's an excerpt from the New York Post. Pharmacists quietly panicking over looming respiratory drug shortage. On Thursday, pharmaceutical manufacturer AmerisourceBergen sent to its pharmacists a list of respiratory medications that it's placing on backorder because they are in short supply, the Post has learned. The $168 billion publicly traded company flagged nebulizer solutions and two types of generic respiratory medications used for asthma and other breathing disorders, sources said. In a statement, the Valley Forge, PA-based company said it has not received any formal notification from supply chain partners regarding drug shortages or disruptions in respiratory medications in light of the coronavirus. As an active participant in the pharmaceutical supply chain, we are engaged with health officials and are constantly monitoring for any potential impact of the supply chain. We will continue to be highly engaged as the situation evolves on a day-to-day basis, the company said. Wow. So there's that. There's another one of these things that is, you're pulling this part out and that part out. And yeah, my wife is involved in the business, I guess you could say, somewhat in this business, somewhat. And she's an essential person, so she actually has, she goes to work. But fortunately, she only has to go 2 days a week, so that's good. But business is booming, but the supplies, they are dwindling. And it's if you want to preserve, you would tend to look at this with horror, and if you're thinking we can reorganize and that's opportunity, that we can actually maybe create vehicles of power that are more advantageous to me. Sadly, though, most of the people that are in the faction that want the fundamental change that they imagine will happen aren't going to get it, and they'll be just as disenfranchised as they are today. That's the sad. I won't say the sad truth of it because I can't say for sure, but that's the sad I highly suspect. That's the sad I highly suspect. How about that? For whatever that's worth. All right. So these are we're done. We're going to go to the next segment. Coming up is the talk feature. This was your 4 o'clock show. The talk feature's coming up at 5 o'clock, and that is Bill of Rights basher seeks Bill of Rights protection from doing bad things to good people. And you're going to have to wait until 5 o'clock if you're watching on the YouTubes on the Action Bots for that one. No. All right, turn the light off. Get ready to go to the next place that we will be going to. Where is that? It's gonna be the feature segment. Let's just get right to let's just dive in, or what does that Philly D say? Let's just get it, or whatever. I can't even remember. It's been so long since I watched one of his videos. Man. Wow. And I actually liked him for a brief, literally probably 6 weeks. And then I was like, oh, this is getting annoying. All the jump cuts. All the energy. Ugh. It was too happy for me. That was the problem. It was just too happy for me. I mean, to each your own, but Don't come to Frico Land expecting to get happy. I mean, hey, you're going to have happy moments, I hope, but don't expect no jump cutty. I'm like the opposite of jump cuts. Yeah, I'm like slow cuts. That was weak. This is the talk feature for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. Our talk feature for today is Bill of Rights basher seeks Bill of Rights protection from doing bad things to good people. It might be a low-level district judge in the federal judiciary system, but so far, the Fed judges give the send-off to Twitter in a recent ruling that won't allow Twitter to tell on the feds that made Twitter tell on we the peoples. One can only assume that Twitter has been asked to tell on peoples that at times they failed to understand how that was within the confines of the Bill of Rights, a convenient vehicle of power for so long as, for Twitter, they get to selectively seek its protection while flaunting its principles. And here's an excerpt from Reuters. U.S. judge blocks Twitter bid to reveal government surveillance requests. U.S. District Judge Juan Gonzalez-Rogers granted the government's request to dismiss Twitter's lawsuit in an 11-page order filed in the U.S. District Court for Northern California. The judge ruled on Friday that granting Twitter's request would likely lead to grave or imminent harm to the national security. The government's motion for summary judgment is granted, and Twitter's motion for summary judgment is denied, the judge said in her order. Twitter had sued the Justice Department in its battle with federal agencies as the internet industry's self-described champion of free speech Oh my gosh. Sorry. I got a little snot bubble from that one. When you're 11, you go, little papa-lapas in the little snozzes. Papa-lapas in the snozzes. That's going to be the name of my next poem. No, it's not. It's not. I'll never even remember that phrase. Nobody else should either. Type F in chat for that phrase dying before it ever started. Twitter had yes. The self-described champion of free speech seeking the right to reveal the extent of U.S. government surveillance. And that's the end of the excerpt. And we go back to me now. This is Frico now. It is amusing, if nothing else, to see Twitter appealing to the rule of law standards that are only possible if the government is limited, for whatever reason, or reasons, by the principles of the Bill of Rights. To be sure, anyone who pays attention to this website or watches the shows will already know that I assume rights are constructs, in some vernaculars, but for me, they're just vehicles of power, vehicles that I particularly favor, owing to my assumption that such vehicles of power favor consensual exchange. My preferred method of exchange amongst my fellow human neighbors. Such as it is, the Bill of Rights, though more often than not, selectively appealed to for protection or to use as a weapon of law assault is a common vehicle of power Americans have regularly deployed across the factional divides. And here, the very champions of fundamental anti-Bill of Rights constructs, competing vehicles of power like hate speech standards, like supporting censorship of narratives that official representatives do not find to be orthodox enough to be allowed, now find themselves desperate to expose just what the government has been asking them to do, and the bodies they helped the government to create. But it is only themselves that will be to blame if they find in the very government that they've enabled an unsympathetic ear as they shut the proverbial door to liberty through the Bill of Rights standards, right in their hate speech standards, government science orthodox censorship standards faces. Dear Twitter, be the liberty you expect the government to be. If not, Don't be surprised when no one shows up to weep when you find yourselves perpetually having to help governments create bodies while you keep your mouth shut, banning people for dead naming while others are allowed to spread Chinese agitprop accusing the United States of being the source of the Wuhan virus. Learn who and what enables you to enjoy the liberty you've had for so long, to deny that same liberty to millions for so long. I have very, very little sympathy for this company, this Twitters, because of the route that they've chosen to go down to. They've chosen to adopt the authoritarian, in their particular case, that authoritarian SJWism. And just in case, because there's a lot of times people watch this video, they haven't seen all the others. I want to make sure if you're an SJW, you can be my friend and I can be your friend, I hope. This isn't speaking against SJWism. It's only speaking against authoritarian SJWism, and that is using to coercion to enforce your SJW values and assumptions on others who don't agree with you. And there's plenty of consensual SJWs, and I always use the example in northern Syria amongst the Rojavans, who a large part of those folks have adopted these types of consensual SJW. Very, very different the way that their feminism is really different. They have police forces that serve, and they have one male and one female that patrol together. There's always a male and a female together. There's a male and a female in their types of leadership, such as that is. They have all this representation, and the women are trained early on to be able to defend and take care of themselves, and by necessity, because they're in the middle of a war zone. They're trained right alongside the men, so it's a very different environment, and one that I encourage in America. Well, not the having to fight in wars, but in general. Like, I know for me, I've at least given my daughter every attempt, every opportunity to learn anything, and encourage her to learn all the things that we'd only traditionally offer to boys. So giving your child the opportunity to have whatever mindset they want to have, rather than assuming a mindset based on their gender. So I kind of agree with a lot of those things. I'll say if there's a Venn diagram, I overlap a lot with SJWs in a lot of ways, but I definitely I'm not contained in their systems. I have fundamental problems. Theoretically, I have a lot of theoretical problems with even consensual SJWism, but I could say that with almost any system that I've ever come to know to any degree. But SJWism in and of itself is not the target here. I want to make that, and it's important to make that clear, that the target is the authoritarian version of SJW. I'm a Christian, but I am against multiple forms of authoritarian Christianity that I see around me today. Well, and some of it every bit as much as the SJW authoritarianism, even though I am a Christian. So seeing Twitter, which is the one that has decided to use this particular vehicle of power, SJW authoritarianism, to believe that somehow you should have a public platform that serves the whole community, and you should make rules that restrict who gets to use that platform based upon your particular ideational constructs. This is fundamentally against the Bill of Rights standards. This is not a Bill of Rights standard at all. This is an authoritarian standard. This is a priestly standard. This is a godlike standard. This is a fascist standard. This is a totalitarian standard. Whatever words you want to use that describe various forms of this type of use of moral supremacism to justify being cowards, being brutal, authoritarian, coercive cowards, because that's what censorship fundamentally is. It's you're a coward. I almost lost it there. I can do this, folks. I can make it 10 days without freaking out. I'm on day 9. I've already gone 9 and 10 shows. 10 shows in a row. I've done 9 shows in a row, and I want to make it 10, so I got to keep it contained. So Twitter is now looking to try to absolve itself of the sins that it knows that it's committing that violate. Because right now, the federal government, and maybe other governments, maybe local governments, maybe, I have no idea, but maybe just the federal, I don't know. But at least the federal government is asking Twitter to turn people in, is asking Twitter to help the federal government, probably help the federal government track non-citizen, non-licensed people. So that's what I call these folks, non-citizen, non-licensed people, because it doesn't subhumanize them. And it identifies what they are in terms of their legal status, but it doesn't demonize them by doing so. But their legal status is they're non-citizen and they're non-licensed. Or non-certified, you can use that word. I'm licensed, certified. I think either one might work. And it's probably asking them to do things that violates their own SJW authoritarian standards. And that's the kicker. I mean, I'm not for the federal government actually doing that. I don't want the federal government tracking down these non-citizens the way that they have been. It's a horrifying thing that's going on. And it's still going on, even during Coronaville. That's the horror. That's just the devastating horror of it all. I just can't imagine all of the lives, even the ones that aren't the ones being tracked, the ones that feel they might get caught up, the ones that have loved ones that are in this situation. What's that doing to their bodies, to their souls? It's devastating. And here they are. Yeah. The judge just said, no, man, security reasons. Yep. Twitter wants to be able to make its case to the public, and I would support that. I don't support Twitter at all. I think that Twitter needs to go away. It needs to be taken over or go away, because it can't be a public platform. They have no standing anymore. Nobody should trust whoever's operating this group of people. Their safety committees and whatever else they have. They have no. This is like the cop that shoots the dog. By all rights, the cop that the dog that isn't threatening him, the cop that shoots the dog on a chain in someone's yard. That cop should never ever be a cop again. It's horrifying that they probably will be. She probably will be. I would never, ever want that person to be entrusted with a gun in that type of power position, power advantage, ever again. And that's how I feel about these Twitter people. They should never, ever be trusted. We must replace them, or they must be gutted out, and we need to fill them with human beings who are going to be mindful of bills of rights. As long as you don't fill them with one faction or another, it's got to be a multiplicity of factional folks in there. All of them bound by the Bill of Rights. Because otherwise you can't be the public platform. YouTube, you can't be the public platform anymore. You've lost the trust. You cannot get it back. The only way that you can get it back is if you replace everyone and bring in whole new people. Get all of the people that are in there now at the highest, at the decision-making levels, and even whoever participated in monitoring people and destroying people's lives. Get them all out. Get them gone, and replace them all with human beings that respect the bills of rights. I think I'm going to end that there. This has been the 5 o'clock segment, the talk feature for the 5 o'clock segment, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Action Bots YouTube channel. Coming up at 6 p.m. on the Action Bots YouTube channel, if you're watching on there, is the Talk Focus feature. And that comes up as Raising the Freeze the Quantum Power. So, hey, we got a good story for you folks. Got something to look forward to. All right, let me cut this off. You got to turn that light off. Like I said, you do not leave a room without turning the light off first. Because, see, if I didn't turn this light off when I came to this room, because this is the focus room right now, getting ready to do the focus segment, if I didn't come here, you know what, maybe I should clean it up or switch it up. But, Yeah, I like to mix up the thing. You just see me up close there, and I like to show off my little pink dragon. Did I just call that a pink dragon? I've never ever called that before. I tell you the truth. I feel really bad and weird now. I feel awkward. I feel like maybe this shouldn't continue. I'm literally broadcasting in a basement. It feels like everybody already knew that after they heard what I just said. Yep, this is a basement broadcast. By the way, I have an idea. I think I shared it before. I'm going to share it again because I now just thought about it. Somebody take the idea because I can't do it. There's so many ideas I have. I can't do any of them. Well, I'm doing this one. That probably is about it. And the idea is somebody needs to start a production company thingy called Basement Media. Basement Media. Get the domain name, whatever, Basement Media, if it's .com, .tv, whatever. Get Basement Media, and either be a service for people that are Basement Media folks, or maybe you can have a stable of Basement Media folks that could all operate on the same website, producing videos, whatever, and your own crew, a Basement Media crew. Do that. Somebody do that. But we're going to get to the talk focus now. So there. Because we're in a hurry. We got to get things done. Got to get things done. Where is my music? This is the talk. This is the focus. So where is my focus music? Uh-oh, I got a problem, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Well, okay, never mind. I'm okay. I wasn't in the focus room, and I was like, where's my focus music? All right, there's my focus music. Are you ready now? Here we go. This is the talk focus for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. My name is Frico with Frico.com. Our top focus is raising the freeze quantum power. A new type of quantum processor could be a game changer in delivering to the world that portable, useful, practical quantum computer. The main drawback to providing this quantum leap in computer tech, sorry, I had to do it, the bad pun. The bad pun, that is. I did that. That's terrible. It's just how hot these processors get. The heat these processors create necessitates the creation of complex, bulky, expensive cooling systems that can keep the processors from overheating and going boom, boom. That thing will seriously melt you down, son. Melt you down. That's all about to change with a new processor that will not require nearly as much cooling as the current ones do, 15 times warmer to be exact. The hero is tunneling qubits. Now, this is a story that I've covered before, but this is explained in a different way, so I'm going to, and I've decided I'm going to be doing that with some of these science stories. When I see, like, different versions of the same story that have a different take, I'm going to carry them and redo some of these, because some of these this one I think really bears repeating. I may actually do this one again, maybe in another week or two. Who knows? If it shows up again, because some of these, it depends on, if people keep talking about them, then they'll show up and I'll see them, but if they don't, then they won't, obviously. Excerpt from Science Daily. Hot qubits break one of the biggest constraints to practical quantum computers. Researchers led by Professor Andrew Zerzak at UNSW Sydney have addressed this problem. Our new results open a path from experimental devices to affordable quantum computers for real-world business and government applications, says Professor Zerzak. The researchers' proof-of-concept quantum processor unit cell on a silicon chip works at 1.5 Kelvin, 15 times warmer than the main competing chip-based technology being developed by Google, IBM, and others, which uses superconducting qubits. This is still very cold, but it is a temperature that can be achieved using just a few $1,000s worth of refrigeration. See, it's getting down there. Rather than the millions of dollars needed to cool chips to 0.1 Kelvin, explained Zerzak. While difficult to appreciate using our everyday concept of temperature, this increase is extreme in the quantum world. And what this means is, now this is going to get lower, but what this means is that we've taken a step from, this is a technology that was only available to the wealthiest of nation states and corporations, to this is now a technology that is available to mid-level companies and 2-bit nation states. Uruguay can now afford to invest technology in developing their own quantum computers. That's how you can understand this. That's how you can understand this. And these are the types of things that are happening every day that should blow your freaking minds. And if you knew about all this stuff going on, which is one of the reasons why I cover this stuff, then you'd start to see we don't need this stuff nearly as much as you think we do. We have the power, we have the technology here and now to, I won't say eliminate, but almost eliminate most of the large-scale, centrally planned and centrally controlled by the very, very select few Citadelians. That we don't need them anymore, and we don't need to take back the means of production. We don't need to march on their mansions. We don't need to take up arms against the government. All we need is 3D printers, mesh networks. We need to basically we need to be able to, and we need to be able to build and to provide and to serve our consensual associations right around us without having to go to Amazon or Walmart or the federal government. We don't, I won't say we don't need them, but I'll say we need significantly less of them at the very least. And of course, in my heart of hearts, we don't need them at all, but again, I don't think that's really practical and will be for any time in any near time future. So the prospect of maintaining quantum computers with enough qubits to be useful at temperatures much colder than deep space is daunting, expensive, and pushes refrigeration technology to the limit. But now again, the UNSW team, however, have created an elegant solution to the problem by initializing and reading the qubit pairs using electrons tunneling between the two quantum dots. The proof of principle, and I don't ask you to fully understand that because I don't fully understand it, and I did read the whole article, and you know, I'm not a scientist, so I'm learning some of this stuff as I'm doing the show too, so that's kind of fun. I mean, I've always loved this stuff, and I ran a, you know, this show has essentially become 2 projects that I ran. One project that I did in the 90s, which was called Logodatalist, which I did with someone else, and that's a poetry magazine. We did a lot of weird things. One time we've had anonymous, we've had a group of poets that came together and we all collaborated to build this one long poem, and nobody was credited it. And our magazine, we were collected by very prestigious colleges out there, including one that still has one of our audio issues, the University of Pennsylvania. Yeah, Ivy League college, baby. So anyway, part of it is Logodatalist, and the other part is the show that, or the magazine, the online magazine that I ran about 3 years, in 2003, 2006, something like that, and that was called Freedom Through Autonomous Living, in which I was talking about a lot of the stuff back then, 3D printing, hydroponics, aquaponics, all the things I'm still talking about. I was talking about that back in 2003, and I already had my little fantasies of the little place that I wanted to build. Maybe, hopefully, someday I'll build it, but I mean, I've been working on this for a while. So this show is kind of like Logodatalist and Freedom Through Autonomous Living with a little bit of my political past show stuff sprinkled in. But primarily those 2 things. That's what it's become. Home growing turns out to be a fortress and a storehouse. Americans are discovering how perilous the big things are that seem to deliver to us all our desires whenever we want them. In the time of Coronaville, Americans are learning that having home solutions will build a protection against threats beyond their control, like a virus shutting down your economy and a storehouse that can supply you with life-giving resources. Thanks to this epiphany that millions of Americans are experiencing, seed providers have to create waiting lists to deal with the backup of orders, as we are about to see over the course of this spring and summer, an American Victory Garden renaissance. And, you know, I saw a little blowback from some folks on the whole idea of these folks that are going around and they're like buying seeds and they want to buy their seeds. And they're like, oh, what are you going to do? You're gonna grow food and suddenly you're gonna live off the land just like that? And that's just such a false, straw manning, because nobody's saying that they're gonna suddenly, like, even I got seeds and we're gonna be building our garden. And I'm not building a garden in any way, shape, or form imagining I'm going to be able to build a garden that's going to provide for me and my family. But it will provide a certain level of food that I don't have to go out and get. So, yeah, that's what most people are thinking. That's why people want these seeds. Now, I'll just say that. So here's an excerpt from Truth Theory. More Americans are turning to grow their own food, and seed companies can't keep up. Seed companies have stopped taking orders of new seeds for a while due to a sudden increase in demands for seeds. This demand was unprecedented as per the chairman of Burpee. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Oh, man. As per the chairman of Burpee Seeds, George Ball, the company requires some time to restock before they can start accepting new orders. It can be understandable, though, with people staying at home. Many of them are getting bored and trying to put their energy in some home-based hobbies. Gardening. I apologize. I shouldn't have burped. Now that made me cough. Somehow. Gardening seems to become a hobby, too. With the increasing demand for gardening equipment, it seems like people are starting to create pandemic gardens for themselves. I don't want to call it that. It's Coronaville Gardens, man. Beautiful Coronaville Gardens, and it's going to be great. It's wonderful. It's getting people to in a way, if you're one that believes that we need central control for us to be the good humans that you imagine we should be, you got to be terrified at the idea of human beings going out and gardening and learning how to maybe take care of themselves more and more. Because the more you can take care of yourself, the more easy you can say no to people. That's the heart of negotiation. Having the power to walk away from the negotiation. If you have that power and the other side doesn't, you have the advantage in that negotiation. And that's what you want. You want citizens that have that negotiation over their government, because then government is going to be incredibly reticent to seek to interfere with the free acting lives of humans. But when they feel that there's not going to be much in the way of them having the ability to walk away, well, then they're much more inclined, and they can do a lot more soft power in that way as well. You can do a lot more soft tyranny, whatever you want to call it. When you, like, how does the federal government assure that the local schools get their fundamental programs in there? And even at that, they feel somewhat limited. There's only so much they feel entitled or emboldened to interject. A lot of what you're seeing is actually really, really bad decisions made by states, not by the federal government. But still, federal government has its own poison in the schools. And it's there not because schools are ordered to do it. They're not commanded to do it. It's there because the schools are told if you don't do it, you'll just lose funding. The schools are dependent. They can't walk away. If they had the ability, if communities were self-sustaining their own schools, the power of those schools to define their ways for those communities as far as what they teach their kids, how they teach their kids, all that stuff within these communities, so long as they don't violate the Bill of Rights standards of others, and with a consideration of the balance of children not having the fullest of agency, so they're in a special category, I guess. But even they have, you still have some fundamental, certainly their parents have bills of rights and the kids have some assumed bills of rights as well, whatever. I mean, I'm only talking within the American jurisprudence reality of power. I'm not speaking ideationally like what I think should be, but only what is. And so what is, children are recognized in our society of having a certain level of bills of rights, but certain limitations. They don't have full agency. They're not bondable is really the issue. They're not bondable. You can't sue them. You can't sue them. That's the big thing. You can't sue them. If you sue them, you're suing their parents. That's the essential thing. So there you have it. I think that's where I'm going to end this particular focus for the day. Home growing turns out to be a fortress and a storehouse. And that's what people are going to learn, that they can actually be fortresses and they can actually be storehouses. I think maybe in the episode tomorrow I may show you another one of my house designs. And these are just to plant the seeds in your heads of just some of the ways that we'll be able to encourage consensuality is by rebuilding how we live and to put ourselves in positions where we kind of have to interact more with others at blood and bone type interactions, where we're growing gardens together, where we're doing the upkeep on the pool that we're all sharing, all the various ways that, especially when we're all doing this, when all of the participants are relatively equally powered. They have the capacity to defend themselves. They have the capacity to walk away. Like any one of them would have the power to be an island in and of themselves. Their lives wouldn't be nearly as rich, so they wouldn't want that. But they have the capacity to walk away if the world around them tries to treat them like a jerk. And that's why people will be so much more incentivized to be consensual. They'll want it. They'll need it. It'll be a wonderful ideational construct that will allow them to submit to others without feeling that they are diminished in their own power. And that's what will happen. That's what will emerge. And that's, well, I'll show that maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure. Maybe one time this week I'll show another one of my little things. I'm going to end this one, though. This has been the 5 o'clock show. Or no, excuse me. Pardon me. This is the 6 o'clock show, the Talk Focus. And that means we're at the halfway point of Frico Talks the News, the live stream. Or just about, because they get a little bit after I'm done with this recording. But for you here on YouTube's, the party rocks on like there was never an interruption, so to speak. And that comes in the form of the 8 p.m. show. And the 8 p.m. show is the news poem, which is titled The Be Newsy Social, the Number of Scored. So stay tuned on the YouTube channel for that. Alrighty then, I got to turn the light off before I leave the room. And I've done that. 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 That's what I do on the singing. That's what you get, man. And this really is this show. That's what it's becoming for me. This is the show. Not particularly exactly like this, because maybe when I was in different times it would have been slightly different at all. But in the overall, this is the show that I've always wanted to do and never did, because honestly, this is not the show that you... if you want to make money and you really want to build a big audience, don't make my show. But I think that there's an audience for my show. It may take me a while to find it. I think it might be maybe 200,000 or 300,000 people in the country that might actually find what I'm saying resonates with them. They can relate to what I'm saying, and they might be in similar type worlds to where I'm at. And maybe I'll find 20,000 of them. That's my goal. My goal is to have an audience of roughly 20,000 folks. 20,000 folks. I think I could make a living doing this, and I'd be doing what I love, and I think I'd be spreading a lot of positive stuff, and hopefully I'd have an audience that would be doers, that would be the fringe scientists and the engineers and the home gardeners and the 3D printing maniacs and the home-brewed engineers, no college education, just, naturally inquisitive, just naturally experimenting. And these folks, and maybe some of the ideas I have, maybe some of them will use them, and then they'll report to me. They'll report back to me. You report back to Frico with your latest discoveries. This idea that you have, Frico, I try. It work. Look at this. Now heads can glow in dark just by saying the word tomato. Holy crap, I'm glowing. No, I'm not. That'd be weird, though. That'd be weird. If you could sign... No, I don't even know. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Okay, we're at the halfway point of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So that means I get to take a break, and you You get to hear some wonderful music. The music, by the way, that you're listening, I think it's on. Yeah, it'll be on this break. On this show, the song I use in the beginning is called "Velvet Moon" by Frogs Are Alive, and this song is, I think this is "Love Overwhelms Me." I think that's what I use at the break, and that's also by Frogs Are Alive. And then "It's Not Easy" is the song I use at the end, and that's also Frogs Are Alive. All lowercase FROGSRALIVE. They have a couple of videos on YouTube, but they is me, by the way. I am Frico. That's my band. I am a one-man band. I am Frogs Are Alive. So you get to enjoy Frogs Are Alive. Welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I get to go have a glass of water and maybe a pisser. I have a pisser. I could say pisser, can't I? Can I say pisser? I'm gonna have a glass of water and a pisser. So I'm gonna inject and eject, inject and eject. I will be injecting and ejecting during the break.
Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me.
Does love overwhelm you? Didn't you ever feel like initially there's the shock of the dead body, but after a while you kind of get used to seeing the dead body. You get inured to it. Anybody feel like that in Coronavilles? I know I certainly do at times. I think today is one of those days I feel like that. I feel like maybe today is one of those days where I'm looking and I'm like, all of a sudden the novelty of the dead body is back. And I've lost my inurity. This is what happens to me. I lose my inurity as I realize that I'm looking at a corpse. A beautiful corpse. True story. I've had, I guess I would say 3, but I would classify as spiritual occurrences in my life where I felt like I was in the and because there's only one sin that's unforgivable in Scripture, and that's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. I would never, ever deny that this was not the Holy Spirit, because for me, such as I understand it, I can't deny that. But anybody that wants to deny it, I am offering no proof. So this is not a proof of Holy Spirit encounter, so it's not an apologetics for Christianity. But there could be a lot of reasons why this happened that had nothing to do with the Holy Spirit. So maybe you can think of it in that way. This was about probably around 2013, I believe, around 2013, 2014. I had seen it was a recommendation for a video for the Black Dahlia, and I saw this picture of her corpse, or what the picture was. You see her body laid out, and you see her face. And her face is why this is such a big story is just simply she's a beautiful girl. And that face, it's still, even in death, it was mesmerizingly beautiful. And that's disturbing. It's disturbing to look at a beheaded human being and find that to be not the beheaded, you focus on the face. You have to disassociate that you're looking at a beheaded head. And that happens. You're drawn into this face. You're just looking at the face. And then I had this, all of a sudden I just started crying. And I felt like I was in a room. I couldn't see a room. It felt like, obviously I was in a room. So yes, it felt like you were in a room. I was in a different room. I felt like I was in a different room to the one that I was in. And even though I was lying on my couch on my belly at the time, I felt like I was standing up. I really felt like I was standing up. Even though I knew I wasn't, I felt it. But I was there. I was in another room and I was standing up. And it was as if I could see all of the beauty of America that was being paraded before me. And I was watching what I imagine was all the beauty of America. Whatever that is. And I'm not going to bore you with all the stuff that I saw. And I felt like, not that I was told by God, not audibly, like, Paul, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, you had thoughts that don't have words, but there's like a whole bunch of thoughts in those thoughts, in the little brief instances. You know you have ideas. All of a sudden you see it all. It's kind of like that. So like this data dump in me. And it was, I felt like it was a prophetic thing, which said that America is going to be a beautiful corpse. And that people were going to die, that a lot of people were going to die. Now, I was never felt like I knew how many people would die or what would cause the death or anything like that, or even a time frame of when this would happen. So nothing like that. Just this that I was looking at corpse, and from that moment on, I actually really, like, I look at the world. I have looked at that world in that way for quite some time. It's like I was looking at a beautiful corpse. And it's disturbing. And that's kind of what I feel. I don't feel that was a prophetic thing. I don't. My Holy Spirit encounter was just that I was given a piece, that I was pulled out of it. And that was really the Holy Spirit part of the encounter. It wasn't necessarily the prophecy, because I don't think it was a prophecy. I do not profess to be a prophet, and I don't think that was a prophetic thing. I think there was something else going on there. But I was in grief and pain and anguish. Like, I was crying. It was horrible. I felt like I was being murdered. I literally, that's what I felt like. And I felt like the Holy Spirit moved in and delivered me from that peace. It took me into a place of peace to be able to watch without being destroyed by it. So that's the Holy Spirit part of the encounter. Anyway, I think that I think that in a lot of, it may very well come to be that we'll come to understand that some of the nature of the spread of viruses has to do with the structures that we have, and that certain types of structures built from non-consensuality tend to create the conditions that stuff like this. I'm not claiming that is the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if we find some evidence to that. In this case, it may very well be it's the very existence of the nation states that made these things. It looks like it could very well be this thing was not engineered by China. It's not a weapon of war, but it looks like China was in an effort to show that they could compete with the United States in viral research. It looks like they cut corners and allowed this thing to get out. But which I'm not really, I don't really have a lot of animosity towards China for that within the nation state paradigm, and no nation state should, because every nation state, if they had the opportunity, they would do what China did, and they may very well end up cutting corners like they did if they thought they had to. And maybe they would, in most instances, China probably would have gotten away with it and nothing would have happened. But they got unlucky, and some of their corner cutting a lot of people are paying for. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going on too long here with this. I got times of wasting, so I'm just going to leave that little clip. I'm just going to float that off there and just end it there. And yeah, we're going to get to the show now. Before we get back to the show, this is for all of you folks out there, you folks that need it. This is for you.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign to the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel, or scientific proofs, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we may offend. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out.
That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. And so far, I have dodged some hefty bullets, man. Some bullets aimed straight at this old heart here. 'Cause this warm, lovely flaming heart that keeps me from losing my freaking mind. But I've managed because I think that I might actually make it through the 10th show here without freaking out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be a glorious time. We're going to get through this. We will get through Coronavilles as well. I know a lot of us have a lot of pitched emotions, and I know I do. I know. And some days are harder than others. Some days are harder than others. And this is one of those days for me. And I think all of you can relate to it, to the blood and bone days where it's just a little bit too real, too close to home. But we push on because in the end of the day, we only have two choices. It's stop or go. And I have no intentions on stopping until, well, like they said, I'll keep broadcasting until they shut me down. If they shut me down, and nothing more I can do about that. Such is life, or whatever it is. Let's do our first segment. Let's do our news poem segment here. And this is the news poem segment for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. 2020. 420, baby! 420! Hey, my colors are good for today, right? The B Newsy Social, the number of scored. Open parenthesis. I got to point that out. It needs to be pointed out because it's important. It is. What appeals to our nature might ultimately destroy it if left to go into hyperdrive. That's been the general take for me for a while since experiencing the hyper leading to 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 hyper. You could go on. Nature of social media. It would seem that there are others who might agree with me. News first, poem follows. And here's an excerpt from Discover Magazine. How our ancient brains are coping in the age of digital distraction. Many technological devices use bottom-up stimuli to draw our attention from our goals, like buzzes and vibrations and flashes of light, Ghazali says, even when they're in silent mode. Moreover, our devices tempt us with the promise of limitless, immediately available information. The data on tap may be Newsy, our least favorite politician's latest gaffe, Factual, our favorite actor's filmography, Social, the number of upvotes our selfie scored, or just plain fun, that video of the aardvark on a bobsled. I'm sorry. But all of it stimulates our hardwired eagerness to be in the know. These days, many analysts see tribalism asserting itself in the resurgence of nationalist movements worldwide and the sharp rise in political polarization in the U.S., with both trends playing out prominently online. A study published in the American Journal of Political Science in 2015 found that party affiliation had become a basic component of identity for Republicans and Democrats. Social media, which spurs us to publicly declare our passions and convictions, helps fuel what the authors call the gradual encroachment of party preference into non-political and hitherto personal domains. Faced with text cognitive overload, humans determine what's worthy of attention by relying on biases shaped by evolution, says Thomas T. Hills, a professor of psychology at England's University of Warwick. Those tendencies may have helped our ancestors survive, but they're not always in our best interest today, Hills says. He identifies 4 types of cognitive selection that fuel digital tribalism. Selection for belief, consistent information, also confirmation bias. It includes us to prefer data that align with what we already think. Selection for negative information. This tendency, also known as negativity bias, primed our ancestors' brains to prioritize alertness for predators over others, less threatening types of attention. Selection for predictive information. Pattern recognition bias, as it's often called, helps us discern order and chaos. And I just want to say that pattern recognition thingy, that is a huge, huge factor That and the really fascinating part about the pattern recognition is the way that you can retroactively alter a person's pattern recognition perception by I believe the term everybody uses, gaslighting. A little bit of gaslighting people to believe that actually change events in the past, so that now they built pattern recognition biases that favor your particular vehicle of power. Everybody does this, by the way. All the factions do this to one another. It's not exclusive to any of you. Not a single one of you is exclusive to. Selection for social information. This, quote, herd bias, unquote, prompts us in uncertain environments to follow the crowd. And then that's the end of the news excerpt. Now, the poem itself, I'll just say briefly that the poem itself, I take a quote from this and I convert it into a basically an assemblage poem, kind of a Dadaistic type of thing, although not completely Dadaistic, because I assembled it not in a random way. I did assemble it, so I put some craft into the assemblage, definitely craft into the assemblage, but that's a craft. And then from the assemblage, then I could create a third layer, and that is where I take that part and then I interject more of. This is the Sham thing I talked about in an early episode. This is the meeting of the random, and then with the planned, the chaos and order kind of in synchronicity, as you will. It's kind of the end goal. So hopefully I pulled that off, and if not, I don't apologize. I don't really care. I'm doing the show that I want to do, so. That was rude. Now they're not going to listen to your poem. Yeah, they will, because they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to rip this guy. Let me hear this poem. Basement dweller. I am the basement media. The B Newsy Social, the number of scored. The first iteration. Many technological devices use bottom-up stimuli to draw our attention from our goals, like buzzes and vibrations and flashes of light, Gonzalez says. Even when they're in silent mode, moreover, our devices tempt us with the promise of limitless, immediately available information. The data on tap may be newsy, our least favorite politician's latest gaffe, factual, our favorite actor's filmography, social, the number of upvotes our selfie scored, or just plain fun, that video of the aardvark on a bobsled. But also, all of it stimulates our hardware eagerness to be in the know. The second iteration. All of it stimulates hardwired eagerness to be in. Many technological devices use bottom aardvark on a bobsled. Factual, our favorite, in silent mode. Moreover, our devices tempt. Data on tap may. Hardvark on a bobsled, up stimuli to draw our attention from our goals, like buzzes and vibrations and flashes of light. Upvotes are selfie, social, the number of scored. The third iteration. All of it stimulates. The thought drops, honey, on my body. I'm about to be hardwired, eagerness to be in, to be torn. Meanwhile, the tautology of the shock of the pattern inflicted upon our tendencies, born in the root of bug hunting for survival. Many technological devices use bottom aardvark on a bobsled. Factual, our favorite design. The body slips out of the factotum and begs for the gas that won't let it sleep, even though it inspires it to eat itself. In silent mode, moreover, our devices tempt. Eat itself. Data on tap may. Aardvark on a bobsled. Russian myths of the sleepless, up stimuli to draw our attention from our goals. Do not eat the light, but do not follow it. The light is a fractured image of the sugar facsimile of life, like buzzes and vibrations and flashes of light. Upvotes are selfie, social, the number of scored. All right, I'm not waving bye to you guys. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know I'm not waving to you guys. Not waving to you guys. I'm not waving bye to you guys. You guys are still with me here. We're all together. All together now. All together now. All right, singing along. Hey, I got through. Well, I guess it was. Well, this poem is actually. It didn't challenge me to try to get through the freaks. So it was actually. It kind of calmed me down a little bit. So good. That's why you create. You create. Don't divide. Create. Don't divide. You know, that's one thing I worry about is. I mean, it's one thing to be upset and angry, but I can assure all you idiots out there seeking for some sort of violent revolution. I'm telling you, man, that does not bode well. That is not in your favor. Not in your favor at all. Seriously. Just saying. The answer is not. I mean, it's guns in terms of defending yourself from people trying to take your stuff, but it's 3D printing and mesh networks and encrypted currency exchange. That is what will disempower the state in a way that won't create a vacuum of power that just allow another tyrant to come rolling through. I do not advocate in any way, shape, or form for any type of violent revolution at all, in any way, shape, or form. I advocate for a revolution of technological homesteading. I think that's what I'll say. That's what I'm all for. Technological homesteading, and to associate and mesh up with others that are willing to do the same. That's what we all need to start doing. We all need to technologically homestead, and that means that we connect in real ways with others around us, physically around us, and do the same. We form our free consensual associations of folks that are technologically homesteading together. And that's how you're going to end the tyrannies. That's how you're going to end the ambitions of the people that believe that they can actually control the lives of millions. That's how you're going to do it. You're not going to do it by picking up guns. It's just not going to happen for you. It's just not. I'm just saying. Just staying. Stick with 3D printers. 3D print your guns. Do that. Definitely do that. 3D print your guns all day long. But don't think you're 3D printing your guns so you can build militias to take on the government. That's insane. That's just nuts. The government is you. We are the government. Just don't kid yourselves. So you're only going to war against yourselves. Anyway, these are the rambling jewels that you get when you're on the live stream, and you don't just watch the excerpts on YouTube, the one that I'm about ready to record here because we're in the brief section. Are you guys ready for the brief section? Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready for love. Here we go. Here's our briefs for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. I am Frico for Frico.com. Our top brief for today, excerpted from Lewistown. Well, my title. Let's read my title first. I'll give you at least my title for the first of these briefs. Corpse clean out Coronaville small business loans. Excerpted from Lewistown Tribune. Big boys nab loans meant to help small businesses. Coronavirus relief. Across the country, hotel and restaurant companies of all sizes are tapping into the Paycheck Protection Program, the $350 billion. That's good. I like that. I'm going to stick with it. The $350 billion fund that Congress set up specifically for small businesses are part of an overall $2 trillion economic rescue plan. I'll just repeat dollar. That's all. Just to emphasize. Monies. We're talking monies, man. We're talking hardcore monies. Mid-sized and large hoteliers and restaurateurs are qualifying for the potentially forgivable loans, more than one in many cases, under special rules written into the program at the request of industry lobbyists. At the request of my buddies and my pals and my lifelines and my people that I can't say no to. Even the politicians are limited in their freedoms because they can't say no to these guys. They are not independent of these guys. They owe their lives to these. They're living to these people. Many of these people are these people. Like the politicians themselves. They're in the families that are all, all of them. They're all swimming together, man. Who argued that hospitality businesses have been uniquely devastated by coast-to-coast travel bans, shutdowns, and shelter-in-place orders. Well, then do something separate for them. Don't count this towards small business money. Do something separate for them. This was just a money grab because they're probably also going to get outside of the small business loans. I can't guarantee it, but I almost can guarantee it that they're going to get more outside of this. This whole thing, this is where this is, you should all be so much done with all of these people. This is going to test my day 10, my show 10. Do I reach the 10th show without freaking out? This is going to do it. You're talking $2.2 trillion. All right. Let's take a break here from this music. Let's just take a break from this music here. Let's just get on over here to a calculator. Hold on. I want to get this set up before I show it to you because I don't want to show my work because I've been told not to do that. Don't show your work. Okay. So billion, 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 million, 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 thousand, thousand, thousand. $2 trillion. $2 trillion. $2 trillion. I'm going to divide $2 trillion by $1 million. Okay? $1 million. 1,000, 100 equals. Look at that. Now oh, you know what? I wanted to show this visually. Darn it. That kind of ruins the effect. You guys are probably thinking, no, I wanted to just show the visuals. You know what? I'll show the visual here. Because obviously you can quickly know that 1 million and 2 trillion, it's 2,000. But I wanted to do it in this kind of setting here. Let me get back here. Where is it? Where are we at? I'm sorry. I fall to pieces. Ooh. All right. Okay. You know, that's a good song to be singing right now. Patsy Cline, I Fall to Pieces. Great song. Great song. Great artist. F and chat for Patsy Cline. There you go. I wanted to, you know what? I want to do it. I want to do the visuals. Okay, ready. 2 million, 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 billion, billion, billion. Or excuse me, billion, 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 million, 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 thousand, 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 hundred, hundred, hundred. There you go. I got that 2 trillion, right? And then we're going to divide it by 1,000, thousand, thousand, hundred, hundred, hundred. Just get the visualization and the appreciation of the zeros. I just want that to be seen, and then you go, and there you go, and there you go, there you go. Yeah, so I got that wrong. So what did I get wrong? Oh, you know what? I missed a whole row of zeros, didn't I? When I did the 2 trillion, it was really 2 billion divided by 1 million. Yeah, you're an idiot. That's why. So there you go. This is 1 million, 2 trillion. This is 2 million, 2 million. 2 million millions. Just how many lifelong, generations long institutions of power are people going to be able to build that are already being built that have access to that capital? People that are what do you think companies are going to use this capital for? They're already balking. They're already balking at have to have it, some of these companies, especially these mid-level companies, they're already balking at having to take back their employees. They want to furlough them longer. They want to keep the money but still continue to furlough their employees. This is what they want. So yeah. That's already happening. That's already happening. These people are using all of this to fundamentally rebuild. And they can do that. And there's nothing you could do to stop it right here and right now. But I am telling you, they can't stop us from building right here and right now, amongst ourselves, all of these things. These things that I've been talking about, the 3D printers, the mesh networks, this whole host of stuff out there that we can be doing right here in the here and now. And let's say, I tell you what, we'll do one more of these. That's all I'm going to speak on this. And I escaped that. I could have said so much more. I probably could have went an hour in talking about all the thoughts that I have in my head regarding this whole affair and how much it shows how little regard these human beings with this vast advantage and power, how little they regard fundamentally the fates of the human beings that they're destroying right now with their actions, and who it is that they're enabling and who it is that they're allowing to die. It's vicious, it's disgusting, and they're all guilty. Trump is guilty. The Democrats are guilty. The Republicans are guilty. Your mom is guilty. I'm guilty. Well, I'm just kidding about your mom. Me, I'm not. We're innocent. We're all good. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. Well, we don't need to bust down their buildings and tear down their towers. We just need to ignore them. And we have the power to do that. That's the thing. We have the power to ignore these people and let them just run out of resources. If they can't figure out how to do things themselves, then they'll just kind of eventually just die on their own quietly, all alone in their unkempt mansions. That's fine. Give them that. Send them off to retire, so to speak. Oh, you don't even have to send them off. They're already there. Stay where you're at. Just let all your other stuff atrophy. We don't even need any of it. Eventually, it'll get bulldozed down. Eventually, when it all just falls to crap, and then we'll rebuild around. And we will rebuild, and we'll build in new ways, the ways that we're not building right now. Advance could enable remote control of soft robots. This is from phys.org. And here's an excerpt. In a paper published in the journal Physical Review, Letters, the researchers demonstrated a method for using magnetic fields to remotely induce soft composite materials to rearrange their internal structures into a variety of new patterns. We showed that in a relatively simple system, we could get a very wide spectrum of different patterns that were controlled by the level of the magnetic field, including patterns that would be impossible to achieve by applying mechanical loading alone. This advance could enable us to design new soft materials with enhanced performance and functionality. The ability to tweak a material's fine internal structures in this way allows researchers to tailor its physical properties and to even switch different properties on and off as desired. And since harnessing magnetic fields eliminates the need for direct contact or pesky cables, new soft materials could be useful for applications such as medical implants. So you could put stuff in you that won't hurt you. In collaboration with researchers from the Air Force Research Laboratory, the team demonstrated and analyzed the newly formed patterns using a soft elastomeric material. Elastomeric. I like that word. That is a cool word. Elastomeric? What are we going to do about this, folks? Are we gonna? No, we won't. We don't have time. Inside the soft material, the team embedded small particles of stiff magnetizable material in a simple periodic pattern. Then the researchers applied different levels of magnetic fields to the material, which caused the magnetic particles to rearrange and create forces and stresses within the soft material. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. See, that's good news. See, that's pretty cool, man. Right, I mean, remote control of soft robots. We're going to have tiny little robots being remote controlled. Again, all of this is predicated upon if the intelligence that we're deploying, the intelligence enhancer, the intelligence multiplier, if you will, if this is customized, we created it. It's in our hands. We control it. It's in our box. It's not vulnerable and open to the networks that are controlled by a small few. This is wonderful technology that could enhance our lives in significant ways. Imagine having the capacity to consult your AI doctor along with a doctor that you could consult remotely, and They can have a scheduled time where your AI is working in collaboration with the doctor's AIs remotely. You can do it from great distances, I'm sure, and you can have a consultation with the helps of your AIs and the doctor and whatnots, and giving you a consultation and a recommendation of the type of stuff that you need, and they give you a prescription for you to be able to design something that you could put into your body. And you might need the prescription to be able to run the machine, something, I don't know. And then you do that little thing, and you get little body bots, and you just program them. They go inside, and they're like, oh man, look at this thing here. This is what's going. This little thing here is this little nubby nub is blocking your intestines things, and that's let me just all right, we got this. We're gonna re-engineer this whole section here. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take all this stuff out. We're gonna level this down. We're gonna clean the walls out. It's gonna look lovely, and that's all clean and clear. And you like that. That's great. But if this is technology that is controlled by the few, the IP pirates have managed to buy the minds of others and keep it contained so they can create this artificial scarcity, then it's a bad thing. It could be used in a very dystopian way, or it could be a wonderful tool that we could use to enhance the quality of our lives. And that's that. I will just read a couple more headlines here, and then we'll end the briefs. NASA SpaceX gear up to launch first manned flight mission from U.S. in a decade on May 27th. MLB must embrace, that's from First Post. MLB must embrace robot umpires when baseball returns. That's Bleacher Report. DST scientists working on electrostatic face masks to fight COVID-19 infection. That's Times of India. Robots are packing medicines at government central procurement unit, and this is in Times of Malta, so they're referring to Maltese government, the Maltese government. And then that gets us set for the dialectical, which will be the last segment of our show. If you're watching on YouTube's Action Batza channel, that's ACTIUNEBAZA, then you know the dialectical is coming at 9 p.m. This is the 8 p.m. show. The dialectical is the last show for the day on the YouTube's Action Batza channel. We'll see you then. But for the rest of you, we're still here. We're still live. We're doing it live. Not only are we doing it live, we did it live. We're still doing it live. We will do it live. We're in like that state of liveness across all of the parameters of time and space right now, until we're not. And then we only did it live. But right now we're not in did it live. We're doing will do live. We're in that state. Now the will do live is not for much longer, but it's still here. Well, I mean, in this span of space that this show is not within the terms of my life. I'm going to live until I'm 100. Come on. Did anybody think, whoa, maybe he really did die? Did he actually die in a live stream? That would be so epic. I don't want to die in a live stream, just so you know. Like, if I literally, if I do die in a live stream, let it play. Just keep letting it play. Just do it. Just keep it going. You know, eventually you might want to consider shutting it down if there starts to be some issues. You know what I'm saying? My pallor, my appearance might change in the course of time. So you might want to consider that. Anyway, with that, let's get ready to do the last segment of the show. Where are you at here? Come on. Where are you at? Come on, buddy. There you are. Wait up. See, this is what I mean, folks. See this right here? This is what I'm talking about. You hear that? I went to the room, and what did I discover? Someone left the light on because I could hear the music. That's what happens. That's why you always turn the light off before you leave the room. You don't want to come in now. That scared me. Scared me a little bit. I felt like maybe I had a heart attack and everything, and then I would die on live stream. And I would have done it because I had to turn the light off before I left. That's why you always turn the light off before you leave a room. We're in the dialectical room. And that means we're going to do the dialectical. Do the dialectical. Do the dialectical. Wow, that would be a cool song. I got to figure that one out. Do the dialectical. Not like that, but just the do the dialectical. That's the only part that I'm preserving from when I said that. Everything else sucked. I acknowledge that. But that Make a jingo for that. A jingle? A jingle. A jingle for that. Not a jingo. What is a jingo? I know what jingoism means. That's like that emboldened patriotism that allows you to murder people, that kind of thing. Now, this just is a jingle, a little dialectical jingle. I'll never remember it. It'll never happen. We're all going to die. Literally. Well, we all are going to die. It's highly, highly probable. Not now, though, but eventually. All right. Dialectical it is. Let's get ready to record. And this is the Dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Monday, April 20th, 2020. April 20th, April 2020. This is Frico of Frico.com. Our Dialectical today features this guy. This guy's got a big role to play. This guy's got a big role to play. This is the individual and aggregate. The aggregate and individual. A NewThink on evolutionary science. Jessica Flack is quoted in the article that serves as the springboard for today's Dialectical. Individuality is about temporal uncertainty reduction. This, to me, is the core of the concept that Flack and others are talking about as it relates to applying something called information theory to our understanding of what it means to be human, or, more to the core, what humans as an organism, what human as an organism really is. Now here, before we go on, we're going to give the I won't say obligatory, but let's just say it anyway for the heck of it, because it's good. It's a good rhetorical, so let's just do that. The obligatory Wikipedia definition of information theory. Information theory studies the quantification, storage, and communication of information. It was originally proposed by Claude Shannon in 1948 to find fundamental limits on signal processing and communication operations such as data compression in a landmark paper titled A Mathematical Theory of Communication. Here's an excerpt from Science Daily. What is an individual? Information theory may provide the answer. The individual as a verb. What processes produce distinct identity? Flack stresses that this lens allows for individuality to be, quote, continuous rather than binary, nested, and possible at any level. That's the end of the excerpt. One of the most explosive times in watching my daughter emerge came when she was about 2 or so years old. And I could literally watch her flutter through a host of microcells before my very eyes, sometimes within minutes, before she finally settled into a more granular fluctuation and emergence of who she was and who she might be next. This was really the moment that I cemented what I had somewhat intellectually understood before. The nature of the shifting self. The self that is always emerging. Shifting. But still assumed driven fundamentally by the same core agency that makes the parts sing in this particular expression of selfness. So let's get back to the excerpt from Science Daily. An information theory of individuality, or ITI, describes emergent advocacy at different scales and with distributed communication networks. Examples, both ants and colonies at once. Fleck adds, individuality is about temporal uncertainty reduction. Replication here emerges as just one of the many strategies for individuals to order information for their future, in their future. End excerpt. And I do want to kind of give a little caveat here, because some of this is, I am subject to change my opinions as I ponder and read more about what these folks are doing. But this is my initial assessment. These folks, by my Akchin Batsa, which I spelled with an S for some reason, it's Z. Shame on you, sir. Shame on you. These folks, by my Akchin Batsa understanding of what I believe They are trying to understand, though they have not yet expressed it. Why do humans do what we do? What is the base of action? And they're knocking at the door, but they haven't been invited in yet. And I want you to remember the context of this quote. It's concerning the nature of organizing how we understand evolutionarily who humans are. It's about changing the parameters that we put more weight on trying to understand this evolution, as well as where we are now and even where we might be going. And this is another big, it's kind of a dangerous area that many people have already gone on to with far less knowledge than we have now, assuming that we do and we didn't and we don't now. But if we might potentially at least have the options to optimize those paths, those potential paths where humans might evolve towards. Replication has long been the lens through which evolution has been researched and practiced. It has created a tendency to look at the development of traits in mutations that are successful as traits that benefit the proliferation of the species. But now she is suggesting replication might not be the invisible hand moving through the process of organisms mutating in response to their interactions with the world around them. So let's a little bit more at this article here. To Flack, this quote leaves us free to ask what role replication plays in temporal uncertainty reduction through the creation of individuals. A question close to asking why we find life in the first place. So that's the end of the excerpt. So, certainty. This is what so intrigues me about this article from the start and how it ended up being featured as it is right now. This drive to certainty, this is, for Flack, it would seem the root, the base of action, the creation of the certain. And this, I believe, is as close to my assumption about the base of action as anything I've seen so far. And you know what? I'm going to come back to this, and I hope I don't screw this up, but I'm really going to try. I'm going to take a risk here, going off my path. And I hope I don't screw this up, but I got to take this chance here. To Flack, this leaves us free to ask what roles replication plays in temporal uncertainty reduction through the creation of individuals. This is the assumption here. This is the root assumption, and this is the wrong root. This is not, well, I'm arguing, I'll say. This is not the root of action. This is not the base of action. We are not seeking temporal uncertainty reduction at our base. We are seeking something else fundamentally different. But what we seek, what temporal uncertainty reduction really is simply an elimination of competition in your quest to be what I call the apex existential. So we'll get back to that. But they're so close to me. This is the next step up for me. This is just one step up from where I am in what I believe, as I understand it today, which is subject to change, as the base of action. The base of action is the pursuit of apex existential. The temporal uncertainty reduction is about eliminating the competition. And the reason why replication plays such a fundamental role is because part of our apex existential path, we have three paths. We have the ideational path, that is for our voice to be the voices of everyone, and we have the physiological. It is for us to experience the grandest physical awesomenesses of whatever's within our particular fields, whether it's being a football player or just living a grand life with all the luxuries and everything else that you can imagine. And then there is the genetic. It's the idea of us being transferred genetically from one generation to the next. We seek that. We wish for that. And it's amazing to me. It's so easy to understand that, but because they're one step below, I'm believing and hoping maybe they get to that. They get to that deeper root of base of action than what I believe they have right now. So where are we at? Certainty is what we seek, but certainty of what? Without getting too far afield, let me say briefly, and I guess I did already, and I'm sure I will no doubt repeat, the base of action is the drive to experience in the here and now the perception of I guess I wrote it, of walking in the apex existential, the height of the perception of what it means to be confirmed as being the best of the best in your apex existential plane or planes. And as I said, the 3 planes are genetic, which they call their replication, which now they don't understand. Suddenly they don't understand. Ideational and physiological, and to have that confirmed by others around us. And that's key. That's another key element that they're missing also, that we need to be confirmed by others. That is essential. Essential. It's why human interaction is so vital to our living. What humans ultimately seek is to seek diverse versions of themselves in others around them. And they don't want to see mirrors are boring. Mirrors are boring. They want to see especially unexpected versions of themselves. They really want to see that. They want to be surprised. Others who have consensually been formed into these states, the states of being different versions of you. And that's key. Different versions, not mirrors of you, not like fundamentally different. Like there's just what makes them uniquely you is that in all of the key existential areas, they're totally aligned with you, and they recognize that you are the best in all of those key existential areas, whatever they might be for that time and place and circumstance. Here's the last part from the excerpt from Science Daily. Perhaps the biggest implication of this work is in how it places the observer at the center of evolutionary theory. Just as in quantum mechanics, Krakauer says, where the state of a system depends on measurement, the measurement we call natural selection dictates the preferred form of the individual. Who does the measuring? What we find depends on what the observer is capable of seeing, and they call that the quantum wave thing. The observation changes the results, whatever that is. You know what I'm talking about. The aggregates and the individual... No, it's the end of their excerpt. And this is back to me now. The aggregates and the individual are integral to one and the other. And the nature of systems are such that the flow of this exchange is debugged through local experience. And I should add that the consensual systems will debug. The non-consensual systems, they will either exploit to interject their own coercion into the vacuum of power, or they will conceal and preserve. This is a problem that many of us who have built and run systems of any complexity can readily understand. The best systems, when they are executed, have little glitches that need worked out, but there are rarely any complex systems that don't offer gremlins you can only see in the course of local exchange, when theory leaves and blood and bone friction grinds bad theories to dust, or so we hope. To me, what I read from this quote, where the state of a system depends on measurement, the measurements we call natural selection dictate the preferred form of the individual, belies the underlying flaw in their search for the origin of life, as in life that is defined by action, and thus the base of action. And that's the key. That's what they're missing. These scientists, PhDs, and otherwise ponderers, and intended misspelling, I'm neologizing there, are seeking not, which is also, well, I'm not really neologizing, I guess. I'm just mangling. I'm mangling a word. I'm not inventing a word, so mangling a word for new reasons. Are seeking not to understand the base of action, but the base of value, for which value is the flow of individuals in friction and gathered in aggregate that also comes to friction. Value is simply the vehicle of power that allows individuals and their aggregate similarly acting agents to satisfy perceptively their preferences, to experience directly or vicariously the apex existential. And their pursuit, however, I believe, unscientifically, but as a ponderer, will lead or could lead them to the same assumption that I have made regarding the base of action. And this is, I said that earlier. I do believe in the course of, as long as they are not controlled by interests that want to assure that they come up with a preferred narrative. Like, it would be convenient to come up with a narrative that says, no, in actuality, what's good for the individual might not necessarily be replication. If they're leading down that path, and if that's what they want to be led down, then that's where they'll end up. But if they're going to follow where this leads, then they're going to get to the next step below, and they're going to start to understand. No, it's the apex existential that ties it all together. I mean, that's just my humble belief. I could be wrong. It is not a mission to understand what is a right or not right human. What is a right or not right human, a preferred or not preferred organism, but rather to understand what compels organism to exchange action with the world around it. It starts simply from a pursuit of the apex existential, but factors far beyond the control of the organism, as we mostly exist today, are pushing it into vehicles of power that might not actually be enabling them to satisfy the preferences they imagine are going to be satisfied or are being satisfied. Now, that one's a little bit harder to refute to someone. If they say they're being satisfied, it's hard to say they're not, but there is a possibility in instances where that probably is true. But certainly, I think you can make a fair case for a lot of these folks, whatever factions you belong to, that imagine if just one more election, one more right president, one more right Congress, one more right party, whatever it is, one more right moral code, whatever it is, you're not going to get. I can 99% guarantee for 99% of you that you're not going to get it. Only a very few will actually get anything close to a reward for the sacrifices that they're about ready to make or have been made. As a matter of fact, those 1% are probably the ones that are already making the least amount of sacrifices, even if they're the ones that are slinging around all the money. It's nothing to sling around money. It really is nothing. If I had money to sling around, I'd probably sling it around. I would rule the world with my money. It's so easy. Just got $1 billion. Oh, your opinion matters. But that's a whole other dialectical or dialecticals. So I'll leave it at here for now and wrap it up for you if I can. I'll do my best. People are beginning to rethink how they seek to understand human beings as an organism in the now, and how that organism developed, and the ways they are rethinking their starting point in the investigation could potentially lead them to understanding the base of action if they let go of another assumption, that they can find the objective valuation of human in whole or an individual. And I think that's where they're stopping with this whole. They've decided that they've latched on to this valuation. It is the reduction of uncertainty, essentially. That's what we seek, the reduction of uncertainty. That's what we that is the, and then they're going to try to frame everything around that assumption. And it's not. I mean, even the apex existential, it has a multiplicity of factors right from the start. It's not one clean. Everybody's looking for that clean, elegant standard that will define their lives. The one mathematical formula that will write the universe. It's like the ANCAPs with their NAP. That's what it is for them. That's their secret code. You build everything around this one principle, and everything is gold. And with the ANCOMs and their fundamental valuation, the right for labor to own the means of its own production, essentially. That's their value in essence. And they see the whole lens through that. And no one understands that values, standards in and of themselves, they have to work in combination with others' values and standards, that no one standard can address all the unique circumstances of individual exchange with other individuals. It just can't. You have to, there are times when you're going to have a balance of standards to consider if you're going to try to regulate consensual exchange. or regulate in a way that facilitates consensual exchange. And no one seems to want to accept that. Everyone wants to latch on to that one little golden prize. In my case, the apex existential. It's rooted in immediately. It has three in and of themselves very very disparate paths, and all of us have all three of these within us: the genetic, the ideational, and the physiological. Like right from the start, it's not a value or a standard that you can stamp onto a grid that allows you to design the top-down system that will get you where you want it to be. It's just not it. It's fundamentally human beings at some point, I hope, will surrender their need to be certain about everything. Certainty in and of itself is not necessarily a bad pursuit. I certainly enjoy my level of predictable patterns that will help me navigate the universe in a more, what I perceive at least to be to a safer, more beneficial way. But I know that I know that I know, and I wish everybody else knew, that not a single one of you can know anywhere close to what you need to know to be able to claim the certainty that so many of you claim. Across the board, Christians and atheists, Muslims, Hindus, all of you, every single one of you, Republicans, Democrats, a lot of you. You just believe that you exist in this place where the world that's in your head is a certain world, and that you actually have the audacity to believe, you have the capacity to make that assessment. You don't. You don't have the brain power. None of us does. No machine has the brain power to calculate that. No machines in coordination with one another, in coordination with humans, have the capacity to figure that out. There is no one strain. There is no one good human or bad. There are only preferences. And my argument is that unless you're a superhero, unless you're a citadelian, you should be for consensual exchange, because consensual exchange affords the most amount of us broken pores the ability to live the lives of our own personal choosing. The least amount of consensual exchange, the least amount of opportunities we pores have to live the lives of our own choosing, or to even understand that the options that we imagine are options are incredibly limited compared to what we could experience if the Citadelians didn't lock half the universe or more behind gated walls with artificial scarcities and controls granted and extended even now during Coronaville to those same people. I think I'll end it on that note. Just rest in uncertainty, and you will be freed from the factions that are continuing to try to make you go to war against your family and your friends. Just do that. And I'll end this segment here. This is the last segment of the day, and I have gotten through it without freaking out. So this is, well, it's not quite the 10th episode because I got more to say after I'm done recording this segment. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time on the Freako channel, on, the Action Batsa YouTube channel. 4 p.m. We'll have the headlines for tomorrow, the top headline first, of course. And thank you for joining Freako here. Don't forget to go to Freako at Freako.com tips and send me your monies. Pay the man. Pay the man. He sang you a song. Now you pay. You don't have to pay me, but you should pay the man. Lots and lots of money too. I'm brave. I'm boldly asking. I'm not asking. On demand? No, not just. It's like I'm thinking about this. Like some I don't know, some streamer girl just lost a bunch of subs because she was berating her subs for not sending her money. Yeah, and you let. I don't know. It was pretty hideous. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Thank you for joining us here on Freako Talks the News. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. with the next show. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. that is the show. We got through it. I want to thank everybody who stuck with me and watched the entirety of the show from beginning to end. There was a whole lot of people. There's nobody watching. And so I was really happy about that. A lot of comments. There's no comments. So I was really happy about that. And, you know, things are trending along. I have 4 followers at DLive. 4 followers. I want to make that note. 4 followers at DLive. So if you're not following me on DLive, you need to do that. You need to watch the show tomorrow, same time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on dlive.tv/Freako. You can also find us on the YouTube if you subscribe to Action Batsa on YouTube. And we are also on Facebook, facebook.com, Freako Talks. Freako, well, just look up Freako Talks the News. We have 2 Facebook accounts. There's a reason for it. I don't want to explain it, but there was a technical. Anyway, we have 2. So look for the one that says Freako Talks the News. That's the one that we live stream on. But really, you should be on DLive because that's where we're really at. We're on DLive. This show is about DLive, okay? Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm gonna leave some of you with a little. If I said anything that offended you, you thought, "Oh my gosh, this guy was horrible. He's coming after me." Here you go. Here you go. A little bit of love.
Thank you for engaging with this material presented. As usual, remember your views, your suppositions do not make you subhuman, nor do they permit you to subhumanize others. No humans were harmed in the making of the show, and we extend no wish of harm to anyone who hasn't directly harmed or threatened to harm others first, no matter how reprehensible we find your views.
We will see you in the next Freako Talks, where Freako attempts to talk about news without freaking out.
last night.